Good evening. Tonight I want to speak to you about the one and only reality in this world. Your own wonderful human imagination. Everything you see, everything you touch, everything you call real was once only imagined. It had no shape, no form, no substance until someone dared to give it reality in their mind. The secret I have come to tell you is this. Your imagination is the only reality and everything else is its shadow. The beginning is always imaginal. My friends, everything begins in the unseen. Every visible thing you now call real was once only a whisper in someone's mind. The entire drama of life is born from imagination. Before there is the house, there is the vision of a house. Before there is the fortune, there is the inward sense of wealth. Before there is healing in the body, there is the picture of wholeness held steadily in the mind. The beginning is always imaginal. The first act of creation is not with hands, it is not with bricks or with tools. It is with thought, clothed in feeling. It is your inner speech, your silent conversations, your secret assumptions about who you are and what is possible for you. That is the root of all that comes to pass. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The Word is imagination. The Word is the invisible pattern that becomes flesh. It does not matter what the outer world appears to be right now, for appearances are the past. They are the shadows of former imaginal acts. The present moment is not born from the present. It is born from the imaginal past. What you are seeing right now is the harvest of seeds sown long ago. If you want to change your world, you must go to the source. And the source is always imaginal. You do not try to rearrange the shadows on the wall. You turn to the light within you that casts those shadows. That light is your imagination. You see, man has inverted the order of reality. He believes the outer world is cause and his inner world is effect. But the reverse is true. The inner imaginal act is the cause. The outer world is its echo. The world is yourself pushed out. It is the mirror of your internal state. When you understand this, you stop trying to fight with conditions. You stop trying to manipulate people and circumstances. You begin instead to assume the feeling of your desired state within, knowing the outer will conform. Think of the seed. Within that tiny seed is a complete pattern of the tree. The soil, the sun, the rain. All they do is assist what already exists within the seed. So it is with you. Your imaginal acts are the seeds. The world is the soil. When you plant an assumption and feel it real, you have sown the seed. And though for a time nothing appears on the surface, the seed is working. Silently. Invisibly. Then in its appointed hour, it breaks forth as the visible fact of your world. Most people live unaware that they are sowing imaginal seeds every hour of the day. They rehearse disappointments. And they wonder why they live in disappointment. They repeat inner arguments, and they wonder why conflict greets them. They secretly consent to being small, and then life obliges by giving them smallness. They are planting and reaping without knowing the law. But once you awaken, you begin to sow deliberately. You choose your assumptions. You choose your inner conversations. You choose what you accept as true of yourself. You must learn to turn away from appearances and dwell in imagination. This is not escaping reality. This is entering the only reality. The outer is but the husk. The inner is the life. If you dwell in the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you are creating cause, and the world must respond. It cannot do otherwise. There is no power in the outer world. The power is in your assumption. Imagine yourself as you desire to be. See it clearly. Feel it deeply. Let the tones of reality fill your mind. Do not simply look at your desired self. Enter it. Become one with it. Say within yourself, I am this, and rest in that state. Do not concern yourself with how it will come to pass. That is not your work. Your work is only to imagine and to feel it real. The ways and means will arrange themselves without your effort. Because the world is compelled to bring forth the harvest of your inner. As surely as an acorn becomes an oak, your assumption becomes your experience. I tell you, what you imagine with feeling is more real than what your senses report. The senses show you only the old harvest. Imagination shows you the new creation. If you will persist in it, your senses will eventually confirm what your imagination decreed. Do not be like the doubter who plants the seed and then digs it up to see if it is growing. You must leave it undisturbed. Live in the end of your desire as though it were already so. Walk in the joy of it. Speak from it. Think from it. That inner state will solidify into fact, and the world will call it reality. Remember this. The beginning is always imagined. Every great achievement of man, every poem, every city, every discovery, every invention was once only an imaginal act. It existed only in the mind of one who dared to assume it true. They did not wait for evidence. They brought the evidence by persisting in their assumption. You can do the same, no matter where you stand tonight. No matter what your circumstances cry out, the power is within you to begin again. By imagining. Close your eyes, enter the scene that implies your desire is fulfilled. See it, hear it, touch it, breathe it, and most of all, feel it. The moment you feel it real, you have sown the seed. Do not despise the day of small beginnings. A seed does not resemble the tree, yet within it the entire tree is contained. So your imaginal act may seem small, but it carries within it the entire pattern of fulfillment. Give it your faith. Nourish it with feeling. Persist, and it will unfold with mathematical precision in your world. This is the law. This is the secret known to all who have risen above circumstances. They know that the outer follows the inner, never the reverse. They know that man's imagination is the creative power of God, and that what is imagined with feeling must appear. Therefore I say to you tonight, take your attention away from what is, and place it upon what you desire to be. Enter it fully, live in it inwardly, let it become the atmosphere of your mind, and soon the world will echo your new state. For the world is only imagination crystallized. The beginning is always imagined, and if you will begin there, if you will dare to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you will discover what I have discovered. That your imagination is the only reality, and the world is only its shadow. The world is yourself pushed out. Everything you see outside of you is yourself pushed out. This is the great mystery that men refuse to believe. They look upon the world as something separate, as something foreign, as something acting upon them from without. Yet all the while it is only their own inner state objectified. The outer world is the mirror of the inner man. Change the inner man, and the outer must conform. There is no accident, no chance, no fate at work. There is only your consciousness assuming states, and those states solidifying into facts. If you meet hostility in the world, it is the echo of hostility you have consented to within. If you meet love, it is the reflection of love you have allowed yourself to feel. Every face you encounter is a mask worn by your own assumptions. Men will argue, but I never imagined this misfortune. I never imagined this betrayal, this failure. And I say, perhaps not consciously, perhaps not in deliberate form. Yet every fear, every doubt, every inner conversation is an imaginal seed. You do not have to sit down and formally construct a scene to create. You are imagining all day long. The question is not whether you imagine, but what you consent to as true. Most people imagine unconsciously. They carry on inner dialogues of defeat, of blame, of resentment. They rehearse wrongs. They brood over lack. They picture themselves as victims of life, and life, being only themselves pushed out, plays the part they have assigned. The world does not argue with your inner speech. It simply plays it back to you in outer form. If you wish to know what you really believe about yourself, look at your world. It is a perfect photograph of your inner state. This is why I say never attempt to change the outer without first changing the inner. It is like trying to alter your reflection in the mirror by painting on the glass. It cannot be done. The reflection changes only when you change. This is the law. As within, so without. What you assume to be true of yourself, the world assumes with you. You may think you hide your beliefs, your attitudes, your sense of worth, but the world reads them as easily as you read a book. They appear as the tone of others' voices, the opportunities that come or fail to come, the circumstances that cluster about your life. The outer world is not your master. It is your servant. It takes the orders you whisper in imagination and brings them to pass. The moment you grasp this, you stop blaming. You stop pleading with men. You stop waiting for conditions to change. You go directly to the cause. You change self. Let me give you a principle. You can only receive from life what you are conscious of being. If you are conscious of being insecure, life must give you insecurity. If you are conscious of being abundant, life must give you abundance. It is not what you say you want that matters. It is what you are conscious of being. That is the only thing the world can reflect. You can test this in your own experience. Assume tonight that you are the man or woman you desire to be, not that you will become it, that you are it now. Let that feeling saturate you. Walk from that state, and watch how quickly the world begins to echo your new assumption. People will speak to you differently. Circumstances will arrange themselves. What once seemed impossible will come gently, naturally, because the world is only a stage set moved by your inner direction. Understand this. Every person who enters your life plays the part you have written for them. If you see them as hostile, they will play hostility. If you see them as kind, they will play kindness. Do not try to change the actor. Change the script, and the script is written in your imagination. You may say, but they have their own free will. And I tell you, yes, in their own world of imagination they do, but in relation to you, they can only reflect your state. They are cast in the role your assumption calls for. This is not bondage. It is law. For you are not dealing with people. You are dealing with states of consciousness clothed as people. When you meet opposition, go within and ask, what in me believes in opposition? What in me consents to being opposed? Find that belief and replace it. Imagine the same person now favoring you, supporting you, loving you. See them as you want them to be, and persist in that inner vision until it feels natural. The outer man will conform, for he has no choice but to reflect your assumption. If you hold resentment, you will meet resentment. If you hold forgiveness, you will meet forgiveness. If you hold lack, you will meet lack. If you hold abundance, you will meet abundance. This is not poetry. This is law. It operates as faithfully as gravity. You cannot escape it, but you can use it. Some will say, but I cannot help my feelings. I cannot help my reactions. And I say, you can. For feelings follow thoughts, and thoughts follow assumptions. Change what you assume about yourself, and your feelings will follow. Do not fight with the outer. Go to the root. Assume the state you desire until it feels real. Then, and only then, will the outer change. Let me remind you, the outer world is not solid. It is fluid. It is plastic to your inner imagining. It only appears fixed because you persist in the same assumption. Change your concept of self, and the world will melt and rearrange itself around your new state. The world is not something happening to you. It is something happening through you. It is the outpicturing of your inner man. This is why scripture says, with all thy getting, get understanding. Understand this law and you hold the key to the kingdom. If tonight you are surrounded by conditions you dislike, do not despair. They are only the shadows of former beliefs. Withdraw your attention from them and place it upon the state you wish to experience. Nourish that state with feeling. Speak from it. Walk from it. And in due season it will bloom as your world. Do not wait for the world to give you permission. Do not wait for men to approve you. Approve yourself in imagination, and the world will echo your approval. The applause you seek must first be heard within. Then the outer world, being yourself pushed out, will supply the chorus. So I say, cease blaming, cease begging, cease waiting. Assume, dare to believe that the world is only your mirror, and when you change the face you present to the mirror, the reflection must change. This is not theories. This is law, and the law never fails. The world is yourself pushed out. Grasp this and you are free. You are no longer at the mercy of men or of circumstance. You know the power is within you. You know the cause is imagination. You know that to change your world you need only change self. And when you do, you will stand in wonder at the swiftness with which the outer bends to the inner. You will see enemies become friends, obstacles become paths, lack become plenty, and you will know what I know, that there is no one to change but self, and no reality but imagination. 3. Imagination creates reality. Imagination creates reality. There is no other creator. There is no outer creator. There is no outer force moving the pieces of your life like a cosmic chessboard. There is only imagination, clothed in the garment of feeling, writing the script that the world must obey. All that you see, all that you call solid, began as a shadowy dream in someone's mind. The house, the city, the empire, all were first imagined. Without imagination, nothing comes into being. This is not a figure of speech. It is not a metaphor. It is literal truth. When you imagine a scene and feel it real, you are creating a seed. That seed, though invisible, is alive. It contains within itself the full pattern of fulfillment. Persist in it, and it will grow. The outer world must reorganize itself to reflect your inner vision. Men call this miracle, or luck, or coincidence. But it is law. Creation is finished. All states already exist. What you call creation is simply the selection and appropriation of a state by imagination. When you imagine yourself to be something, you have entered that state, and everything in your world begins to move to bring it forth. You see, imagination is not daydreaming. It is not idle fantasy. It is the power of God operating in you. When you imagine with feeling, you are decreeing. You are giving the command that reality must obey. The world has no choice but to reflect your assumption. Let us be very clear. Facts do not create states. States create facts. Men look at the facts and say, this is who I am, this is what is possible. But that is error. Facts are only the harvest of old states. They are shadows, not causes. If you accept the shadow as cause, you will be bound to it. But if you dare to assume a new state in imagination, regardless of facts, the facts must change. When I speak of imagining, I speak of imagining from the end, not toward it. You do not think of the desire as something out there, distant, approaching. You place yourself at the end of it. You imagine the scene that would be true if your desire were already fulfilled. You enter it in imagination. You feel its reality, and you dwell there until it feels natural. If you desire wealth, you do not picture yourself longing for wealth. You imagine what you would do and how you would feel if you were already wealthy. If you desire health, you do not picture yourself struggling to become well. You imagine the ease, the freedom, the vitality of already being well. If you desire love, you do not picture yourself seeking love. You imagine the warmth and joy of being already loved. This is the secret. You must feel the reality of the end and live from it. Then the bridge of incidents will appear, carrying you naturally to its outer expression. The how is not your concern. The how is the work of the unseen power. Your part is only to assume the end and remain faithful to it in imagination. Understand this well. Imagination is not bound by time. When you imagine a scene, you are not hoping it will come. You are selecting it now. You are entering that state now. And once you have entered it, the outer must conform, because there is no reality but states of consciousness. Do not wait to see change before you believe. Believing is the cause. Seeing is the effect. If you wait to see before you believe, you are reversing the law. You must believe because you imagine, not because you see. And if you persist in imagining, the seeing will follow as surely as day follows night. Some will say, but I cannot imagine vividly. And I tell you, you do it every day. Every time you worry, you are imagining. Every time you rehearse an argument, you are imagining. Every time you remember the past, you are imagining. The faculty is always active. You have only used it negatively. Now use it deliberately, constructively. Begin with small things. Imagine a friend calling you with good news. Imagine receiving an unexpected gift. Imagine hearing someone praise you. Feel the thrill of it. Live in the end of it. Then let it go, knowing the seed is planted. When it appears, you will know the law works, and you will have faith to apply it to greater things. Never think you must strain or force imagination. It is not effort that creates. It is acceptance. The secret is relaxation. Go into the silence. Close your eyes. Withdraw your attention from the outer world. And then in that stillness, enter the scene of the fulfilled desire. Let it be vivid and alive. Hear the voices. See the colors. Touch the textures. Breathe the air of that world. And most of all, feel the reality of it. If you will do this night after night, you will move from being the creature of circumstance to being the creator of circumstance. You will cease being tossed about by facts, and you will begin to decree facts. For imagination creates reality, and there is no other creator. I tell you, this is the only way anything ever comes into being, not by struggle, not by effort, not by manipulating men or conditions, but by assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. When you assume it, you are fertilizing the state, and once fertilized, it must bring forth its fruit. The outer world cannot resist a man who lives in imagination. It is powerless before him. He is not moved by appearance. He moves appearances by his inner vision. While others see only obstacles, he walks in the unseen path that imagination clears before him. This is why Scripture says, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Faith is nothing more than sustained imagination. To believe is to imagine a thing so consistently that it becomes natural, and when it becomes natural, it becomes visible. Make this your daily practice. Morning and night, and any quiet moment. Enter the end. Imagine the state you desire as though it were now real. Clothe yourself in it. Let it possess your mind and emotions. Walk from it. Speak from it. Think from it. And soon the world will echo it back to you as reality. Never accept the argument that imagination is weak. that it is unreal. Imagination is the only reality. The senses report only what imagination has already decreed. The senses are servants. Imagination is master. Rule the master, and the servants obey. So I say to you tonight, stop looking to the outer world to tell you who you are or what is possible. Go within. There lies the workshop of creation. There lies the power that shapes all things. Imagine boldly. Assume the noblest concept of yourself. Persist until it feels real. And the world, being imagination objectified, will rearrange itself to match your assumption. This is the truth I have proven in my own life, and in the lives of countless others. Imagination creates reality. There is no other cause. There is no other power. Everything else is effect. And if you will live by this law, you will transform your world. 4. The law of assumption in action. My friends, tonight I want to take you deeper into the working of the law of assumption. For it is not enough merely to know that imagination creates reality. You must live from that knowing. You must wear it as you would a garment. It must cease to be a theory and become the air you breathe, the bed on which you rest your head at night. When I speak of assumption, I am speaking of that inward act by which you appropriate the state desired and make it your own. It is not the hope that it might come, nor the plea that it should come. It is the quiet confidence that it is. Assumption is not wishful thinking. It is not daydreaming without direction. It is a deliberate, conscious inhabiting of the air. It is fastening your attention on the reality you want until it feels as natural to you as the ground beneath your feet. And once it becomes natural to you, it must appear. For the outer world has no choice but to mirror the inner. The world is a faithful servant. It brings to your door what you inwardly entertain. The assumption you dare to occupy will crystallize in form, though all the world deny it. Let me remind you, imagination is the creative power, but assumption is the steering hand. You may imagine endlessly, but if you do not assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, your imaginal acts will dissipate like mist. The power of imagination must be clothed in the feeling of reality. When you assume, you unite the creative force with the conviction of being. You are no longer saying, I want this, you are saying, I am this. And the world, being nothing more than your reflected consciousness, has no choice but to show you what you are. Some of you will say, but Neville, I have assumed and nothing has changed. I tell you, it is not the assumption that failed, but your persistence in it. Assumption is not a single fleeting moment. It is a sustained occupation. It is dwelling in the end long enough that it becomes your dwelling place. If you return again and again to the old state, you uproot the seed before it can bear fruit. The imaginal act is the seed. The feeling of reality is the soil. And your persistence is the sun that warms it. Let the seed alone and it must grow. There was a woman who came to me years ago. She desired reconciliation with her estranged husband. Each night she would imagine him sitting beside her, speaking lovingly, calling her by the pet name he once used. She heard his voice in her mind until it became as real as her own. Though the world still showed her loneliness, she persisted in the assumption that she was already reunited. In a few weeks the husband returned with the very words she had heard in her imagination. She did not try to make him come. She simply assumed he already had. This is the secret. Do not seek to change the shadow. Change the light. The shadow is the world, the light is your consciousness. To assume is to accept inwardly what the senses deny. It is to look beyond appearances and say within yourself, it is done. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Assumption is the act of faith in its purest form. It is not waiting for evidence. It is being the evidence. It is refusing to bow to the testimony of your senses and daring to live as though your desire were already fulfilled. This is the boldness the scriptures speak of when they say, you shall decree a thing, and it shall be established unto you. You must understand there is no power outside your own consciousness. There is no fate, no chance, no accident. The world does not move on its own. It moves as you move within. To assume is to take command. You are not at the mercy of the outer world unless you choose to be. Most men wait for the world to change before they will feel changed. They say, when I see it, I will believe it. But I tell you, when you believe it, you will see it. Belief is assumption made solid. It is the invisible root that produces the visible fruit. Do not be concerned with how it will come. That is not your work. The assumption itself contains within it the means of fulfillment. Just as an acorn contains the pattern of the oak, your assumed state contains the pattern of its own manifestation. You need not strain, no struggle. Simply enter the state and dwell in it. The ways and means will appear of themselves. You will be moved by what men call coincidence, by hunches, by seeming chance encounters. But all of it will be the outpicturing of your assumption. This is what I mean when I say the world is yourself pushed out. Now let me make this intensely practical for you. This very night before you sleep, select one desire, just one, and assume its fulfillment. Enter into it as you would look through the eyes of the fulfilled version of yourself. Feel what he or she would feel. Think from it, not of it. It is not imagining yourself getting there, it is imagining yourself already there. Hear the congratulations of your friend. See the world from the height of your accomplished desire. Feel the naturalness of it. If it feels strange or distant, persist until it feels familiar. That familiarity is the sure sign that the state has been accepted. You may say, but Neville, how can I feel rich when I have not a dollar to my name? I tell you, you must sever your feeling from the fact. Facts are the past crystallized. Feelings are the present creative act. You are not called to perpetuate facts. You are called to create reality. If you will feel rich, regardless of appearances, the outer must conform. Do not wait for money to feel secure. Feel secure and money will come. The outer follows the inner, as the night follows the day. Reverse the order, and you are chasing shadows. Assume the state and the shadows will chase you. Assumption is not pretending. It is not lying to yourself. It is choosing which truth to accept as real. There are infinite states, and you are free to occupy any of them. The poor man who assumes wealth is not deceiving himself. He is choosing a new state. The sick who assume health are not deluded. They are moving from one state to another. The world may call it fantasy, but I call it faith. The world waits to see. Faith dares to be. This is the courage you must cultivate, the courage to live from the unseen. Let no one dissuade you. The world will laugh at your assumption. Let them laugh. While they laugh, you will be creating. They will say it is impossible. Let them speak. While they speak, the impossible will be forming itself around you. They will say, be realistic. I tell you, to assume is the only realism, for imagination alone is reality. What the senses call real is only the echo of what was once assumed. Every building, every invention, every achievement you see was first an assumption in the mind of someone who dared to believe. Dare as they dared. Assume the end and let the world catch up. Remember always, assumption is the bridge between the invisible and the visible. It is the golden key that unlocks the door of every prison. No matter where you stand tonight, you can assume your way out. Do not analyze the bars. Do not measure the locks. Simply assume that you are free, and you will be led as by an unseen hand into freedom. The world is compelled to conform, for it has no life of its own. It is animated by your assumption. Change the assumption and the world must change. So as you leave here tonight, carry this truth with you. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and watch as your world bends to your inner conviction. Let no appearance sway you. Hold fast. Stand still in the state you have chosen. And when it comes, and it will come, give thanks, and know that it was your assumption, clothed in flesh. This is the law. This is the secret the ancients knew and the wise still practice. Assume and it shall be. Now let us go still deeper. Living from the end. My friends, tonight I want to speak to you about the great art of living from the end. This is the hinge upon which the entire law turns. Everything I have told you about imagination, about assumption, about faith, they all converge in this one simple but profound principle. You must live as though it were already done. Not tomorrow, not when the evidence appears, now, in this very moment. Most men live toward their desires. They stand here and they see their goal over there, and they say, one day I will reach it, and so they perpetually postpone their fulfillment. They are always on the way and never at the destination. But the man who understands the law does not walk toward the end. He inhabits it. He closes the gap between himself and his desire by assuming it already accomplished. He does not hope to become. He is. You see, consciousness is the only reality, and the only way anything becomes real to you is by your acceptance of it as already true. The outer world is not cause. It is effect. If you approach your desire as something to be attained, you affirm that you do not yet have it, and that state of not having will continue to reflect itself back to you. But if you approach it as something already yours, already accomplished, you collapse the distance between you and it must appear. This is what it means to live from the end. It is not waiting for the world to present the evidence. It is presenting the evidence to yourself in imagination until it becomes natural. It is walking through your days as the man you desire to be, and letting that inner conviction mold the outer world into its likeness. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Transformation is not achieved by effort. It is achieved by identification. You do not fight your present state, you leave it behind by embracing another. I once knew a man who was in desperate financial straits. He owed more than he could pay and had no means of income. He came to me and said, "Neville, what am I to do?" I told him, "Go within. Assume the feeling of financial security. Do not think of money, think from abundance. Walk as though you had all that you need. Let that be your nightly dwelling place." He did as I said. Each night he imagined opening envelopes filled with checks, hearing friends congratulate him on his success, seeing the balance of his account grow. Within 3 months an opportunity arose that paid him far beyond his debts. He did not achieve this by striving but by living from the end. The secret is this: your inner conversations are the seed of your outer world. What you whisper to yourself in the silence of your mind will one day be shouted from the rooftops. If you walk about saying inwardly, "I am still waiting, I am still lacking," you are living toward the end. But if you say within, "It is done, I am that," then all things will rush to bear witness to your word. The world is compelled to echo your state. It cannot do otherwise. Living from the end is not pretending. It is not forcing yourself to believe something you know is false. It is shifting the base from which you operate. It is saying, "I am no longer the man who wants this, I am the man who has it." This shift is not in the outer but in the inner. It is invisible to others at first, but it is known to you by its feeling. You will know you have entered the end when it feels natural. If it feels unnatural or distant, you are still outside of it. Persist until it becomes familiar, and it will harden into fact. You may ask, "But Neville, how can I walk as the man I wish to be when my senses contradict it?" I tell you, your senses are not the truth. They are the past made visible. They show only what you have previously assumed. They are the shadow, not the substance. The substance is your consciousness. To live from the end is to withdraw your faith from the evidence of the senses, and give it wholly to the unseen reality you have chosen. This is why Paul said, "We look not at the things which are seen, but at the things which are unseen. For the things which are seen are temporal, but the things which are unseen are eternal." Let me give you another example. A woman longed for the companionship of marriage. She had grown weary of loneliness. Each night she would imagine the weight of a wedding band on her finger. She felt it until it seemed part of her. She heard her friends calling her by her married name. She saw herself writing it. She went to sleep in that state night after night. Within months she met the man who became her husband. It was not chance. It was her living from the end. The world simply arranged itself to reflect her new inner state. This principle is impersonal. It will work for wealth, for health, for love, for any desire. The only condition is that you must feel yourself already in possession of the thing desired. You must be it inwardly before you can see it outwardly. You cannot be poor in consciousness and expect riches. You cannot be lonely in consciousness and expect companionship. As within, so without. The outer mirrors the inner, without fail. Now let me show you how to apply this. Choose your desire. Reduce it to a single scene that implies its fulfillment. It may be a handshake, a congratulatory hug, a letter of acceptance. Whatever carries for you the sense that it is done. Enter that scene in imagination. See through your own eyes. Hear the sounds, feel the textures. Breathe the air of it. Make it vivid. And then this is crucial. Feel the relief, the satisfaction, the naturalness that would be yours if it were already accomplished. Do this each night as you drift into sleep. For in that drowsy state your mind is most receptive. This is what I call the state akin to sleep. Plant your seed there and it will grow. But when you rise from your bed, do not leave your assumption behind. Carry it with you through the day. Think from it. Speak from it. When doubts arise, and they will return to your end, do not argue with appearances. Simply reaffirm your inner knowing. It is done. Refuse to waver. Refuse to compromise. The double-minded man receives nothing, for he cancels his own creation. But the single-minded man who holds to his end regardless of appearances, compels the world to yield. Understand this. Living from the end does not mean you will sit idly and do nothing. It means that any action you take will be inspired from your assumed state, not from fear or lack. You will be moved by the state you occupy. If you assume success, you will be impelled to act successfully. If you assume wealth, you will naturally move in ways that express wealth. These actions are not forced. They flow as effortlessly as water down a slope. The state you occupy determines the motion of your life. Do not concern yourself with time. Time is the servant of your assumption. The seed takes time to grow, but you do not dig it up each day to see if it is sprouting. You water it by dwelling in the feeling of its completion. You trust that it is unfolding. The man who lives from the end does not fret over when or how. He knows that the unseen is more real than the seen, and that the seen must conform.
He rests in the conviction that it is already finished. This rest is the surest sign of faith. And I tell you this, once you have lived from the end, you will lose all interest in probabilities and chances. You will no longer ask, is it likely? You will only ask, can I feel it real? And if you can feel it, it must become real. The world has no choice. It is only the echo of your inner song. Change the song, and the echo must change. Live from the end, and the world will rearrange itself in obedience to your vision. So tonight, as you leave this place, do not go as seekers, but as finders. Do not go as those striving to become, but as those who already are. Walk as though your highest dream were accomplished, and it will hasten to meet you. Live from the end, and you will discover what I have discovered. That your imagination is not a shadow of reality, it is reality, and the world is only its reflection. Assume the end, and you will see it take flesh before your very eyes. This is the great secret. This is the live from the end, and it shall be. Now let us press even further.
6, feeling is the secret. My friends, if there's one thing I would have you take to heart tonight, it is this. Feeling is the secret. Not words, not mere affirmations, not idle thinking, but feeling. For feeling is the one and only doorway by which an assumption becomes reality. It is the bridge between the invisible and the visible. You may recite 1,000 statements, but until they are felt, they remain barren words. The moment you feel the reality of your desire, creation is finished. The world was not made by thought alone. It was made by thought, clothed in feeling. Thought imagines the pattern, but feeling gives it life. Imagination is the mold. Feeling is the substance that fills the mold and hardens into form. This is why so many strive yet fail. They speak the words, they rehearse the ideas, but their feelings contradict their words. They say, I'm wealthy, while secretly feeling lack. They say, I am loved, while inwardly feeling lonely. And life does not respond to their words. It responds to their feelings. You must feel it real. That is the key. That is the secret. When I say assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, I mean to become it inwardly, to feel as you would feel if it were already accomplished. Not wishing, not hoping, not trying to believe, but feeling from the end as though it was so now. The feeling of having is the creative act. This is why Scripture says, when ye pray, believe that ye have received, and ye shall receive. It does not say believe that you will receive. It says believe that you have received. That is the past tense. It implies completion. And how do you believe you have received something that is not yet in sight? By feeling the emotion that would naturally arise if it were already yours. That is prayer in its truest sense. Prayer is not begging. Prayer is thanksgiving. It is the confident rest of one who already possesses the thing desired. Consider this. If tonight you were told that a great sum of money had been placed in your account and you believed it, how would you feel? Would you not feel relief, joy, freedom, security? Those feelings would arise naturally, without effort. That feeling, my friends, is the creative power. When you feel the relief and joy of answered prayer, even before the evidence appears, you have set in motion the law, and the outer world must conform. Many of you attempt to change your outer world without changing your inner feeling. You attempt to manipulate conditions, to struggle and strive, but the condition is only the shadow. The cause is the feeling that animates you. A man who feels defeated will find defeat in every corner, though he strive like Hercules. A man who feels victorious will find victory at every turn, though obstacles stand in his way. Feeling shapes fate. Let me tell you of a man who came to me once, in deep despair. He had lost his position, his savings and his confidence. He said, Neville, I have nothing left. I am finished. I said to him, no, you are not finished. You are only feeling finished. Change the feeling and the facts must follow. I instructed him to nightly enter a state akin to sleep and imagine himself seated at his desk, signing papers, giving orders, feeling the satisfaction of success. He did this faithfully, though at first it seemed to mock him. But he persisted in the feeling. Within 2 months, an old acquaintance offered him a partnership in a flourishing firm. He became more prosperous than before. He did not achieve this by effort. He achieved it by feeling himself into a new state of being. This is the law. Assume the feeling and the fact will follow. The world is mechanical to feeling. It cannot resist it. Feeling is the magnetic force that draws conditions to itself. You will always attract what you feel you are,
never what you merely wish to be. If you feel small, the world will treat you as small. If you feel great, the world will bow to your greatness. If you feel unloved, no amount of outer seeking will bring you love. But the moment you feel yourself loved, truly feel it, love will come to you in ways you could not script. The feeling creates the force. Understand this. Feeling is not emotion in the shallow sense. It is not a passing mood. It is the deep inner knowing, the conviction, the acceptance of something as true. It is quiet, yet powerful. When you drop a seed into the soil, you do not scream at it to grow. You rest, knowing it will. That quiet knowing is feeling. And when you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you plant the seed. You do not need to force its growth. You only need to persist in the knowing that it is already done. Let me show you how to do this. Choose your desire. Now imagine what you would feel if it were accomplished. Do not see yourself getting it. See yourself having it. There is a vast difference. Getting implies distance. Having implies presence. Enter the scene in imagination. Look out through your own eyes. Touch the objects around you. Hear the voices congratulating you. Most importantly, feel the inner satisfaction and relief. Feel the gratitude as though it were already so. This is the act of creation. Then, while in this state, let go. Fall asleep in it. When you wake, carry that feeling lightly through your day. When the old feelings of doubt or lack arise, and they will, do not fight them. Fighting only strengthens them. Instead, quietly return to your chosen feeling. Say to yourself, no, this is who I am now, and slip back into the feeling of fulfillment. This is the discipline. This is the You do not wrestle with shadows. You turn on the light within, and the shadows flee of themselves. Some of you may say, but Neville, I do not know how to generate the feeling. I tell you, you do it every day unconsciously. When you worry, you are imagining a scene and feeling its reality. You lie awake picturing what might go wrong, and your body reacts as if it were true. That is negative creation. Use the same power deliberately. Imagine what you desire, and feel as if it were true. The mind does not know the difference between reality and imagination. When feeling is present, feeling makes it real. This is why I tell you, feeling is the secret, not effort, not struggle, not long hours of toil. Feeling, one moment of intense, concentrated feeling is worth more than years of hard labor without it. The man who feels successful cannot fail. The man who feels failure cannot succeed. The world is but the outer echo of the inner song you sing in feeling. Change the song, and the world must dance to a new tune. And let me tell you this, you need not feel the entire journey. You need only feel the end. Do not try to work out all the steps. That is not your concern. The bridge of incidents will form of itself. Your only work is to assume the feeling of the fulfilled desire. When you do this, unseen forces move. People are stirred. Events are shaped to bring about the result. It will seem to come by natural means, but you will know you set it in motion by your feeling. So tonight, as you leave this hall, remember this. Whatever you would have appear in your world, you must first feel within yourself. There is no other way. You cannot serve two masters. You cannot feel lack and produce abundance. Cannot feel fear and produce courage. Cannot feel small and produce greatness. Choose this day whom you will serve. Choose the feeling of the end, and make it your dwelling place. Clothe yourself in the feeling of your fulfilled desire. Walk in it, speak from it, think from it, and watch as the world, like a faithful servant, arranges itself to reflect your inner garment. This is the law. This is the power. Feeling is the secret. And now let us go still deeper.
7. Living from the end. My friends, tonight we take another great step. You have heard me say again and again, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. And now I shall show you the deeper meaning behind that instruction. It is this. You must learn to live from the end, not toward it. You must enter the state of your fulfilled desire and dwell there in imagination as though it were the only reality. That is the key to all manifestation. To live from the end is to stand in the very place where your desire is already accomplished, and to think, feel, and act from that invisible place until it becomes visible. Living toward the end is the mistake the whole world makes. Men strive, struggle, chase, and reach, always seeking and never finding. They set goals and try to climb toward them, but their inner conversations betray them. They speak as those who lack, hoping to one day arrive. Yet the one who lives from the end speaks as one who already is. He is not trying to become, he is. He walks as though the promise were fulfilled. And so the world rearranges itself to make it so. Let me make it plain. If you were already the man you desire to be, how would you feel? How would you walk? How would you speak to others? How would you carry yourself when no one was watching? That inner posture is what creates the outer world. You cannot continue thinking from the old state and expect a new result. You must abandon your present self-concept completely and assume the new one in imagination. This is what it means to be born again. To be born again is simply to die to one state and live in another, and you do it by living from the end. When scripture says, call the things which be not as though they were, it reveals the secret. You must dare to call yourself what the world denies you. You must dare to declare, I am, where all evidence says you are not. You must dare to say, I am healthy, when the body appears sick. Dare to say, I am wealthy, when the purse is empty. Dare to say, I am loved, when the phone is silent. Not as a future hope, but as a present fact. That is living from the end, and when you do it faithfully, the outer world has no choice but to mirror your inner claim. I tell you this from experience. Years ago, when I was unknown and without means, I would walk the streets of New York and imagine myself speaking to great audiences. I would see them rising in applause. I would feel the satisfaction of sharing truth. Outwardly, I had no audience, no platform, no reputation. But inwardly, I walked from the end. I knew who I was. I lived there, in imagination, until it became natural to me. And the day came when what I had lived inwardly became fact outwardly. It had to. For the world is compelled to reflect your inner state. There is no other cause. You see, living from the end is not pretending. It is not play acting. It is the only true way to create. Pretending says, this is not real. Living from the end says, this is real. Though unseen, the one who pretends remains divided, half believing, half doubting. The one who lives from the end is undivided. He walks in single-minded faith, and the double-minded man receives nothing. You cannot serve two masters. Either you live from the old state or from the new, but not both. The moment you choose, the old begins to die, and the new begins to grow. Consider a simple example. Suppose you desire to be happily married. Living toward the end, you say, one day I will find love, and you wait hoping the world will deliver it. But living from the end, you nightly close your eyes and see the world through the eyes of one already married. You feel the ring on your finger. You hear your partner's voice calling from the other room. You feel their presence beside you in bed. You carry yourself through the day as one who is loved and chosen. That inner shift will draw the outer counterpart. For the state you occupy calls its own into your world. Everything must answer its own vibration. And here is the wonder. When you live from the end, the means to its fulfillment are not your concern. The bridge of incidents will appear natural. People will be moved. Events will arrange themselves. Doors will open where there were walls. But you must not concern yourself with how. How is the domain of the outer world. Your only work is to live as if it were done. The rest will follow. It is written, do not be anxious about tomorrow. Seek first the kingdom, and all these things shall be added unto you. The kingdom is within. It is your inner state. Seek first the end, and the means will be added. Let me tell you of a woman who proved this law. She came to me longing for a certain home. She had no money, no prospects, and the home was far beyond her means. I told her, do not concern yourself with the means. Live there in imagination every night. Walk through its halls. Sit at its table. Look out its windows. Feel it real. She did so with childlike faith. For weeks, every night before sleep, she walked through that house in imagination, until it felt like her. One day, quite without planning, a relative who had been abroad for years returned and offered her the exact house as a gift, saying he wanted it to remain in the family. She did not plan it. She simply lived from the end, and life conspired to make it so. That is the. You will always receive what you occupy inwardly. The outer world is not a cause. It is an effect. If you attempt to change it directly, you will labor in vain. But if you change your dwelling place in imagination, the outer must conform. It has no choice. This is why I say, do not try to make it happen. Be it now. Be the man you desire to be. Be the woman you desire to be. Be it inwardly, and the world will echo it. And let me caution you. When you first assume the end, the outer world may seem to contradict it. Do not be disturbed. That is only the old state dissolving. Do not return to the old feeling because of appearances. Stand firm in the new. Persist. Faith is loyalty to the unseen reality. Faith does not look for evidence.
Faith generates evidence. If you remain faithful to the end in imagination, it will harden into fact. Nothing can stop it, for the law is infallible. You must learn to walk in the world as though the unseen was seen. This is the true art of faith. When Abraham was called the father of faith, it was said of him that he considered not the deadness of his own body. He did not look at appearances. He looked only to the promise. He lived from the end, and the promise became flesh. So must you. Do not consider the present lack. Do not consider the seeming impossibility. Consider only the fulfilled end. Let that be your dwelling place morning, noon, and night. When doubt whispers, "It is not here," answer, "It is finished." When fear says, "What if it does not come?" answer, "It is already mine." Speak from the end. Think from the end. Feel from the end. Walk from the end. This is the law. This is creation. This is how the invisible becomes visible. So I say to you, if you would change your life, do not fight with shadows. Do not argue with facts. Go within. Choose your desire. Enter its fulfillment in imagination. Make it your home. Return there night after night until it feels natural. And then, without effort, without strain, the outer world will reshape itself to match the inner image. It cannot fail. The law never fails. Live from the end, and the end will appear. And now, let us press even further into this mystery.
The imagination is the substance of things hoped for, my friends. I want you tonight to hear these words with the ears of your heart. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Faith is not something you acquire by effort, it is your capacity to imagine. Faith is imagination in action. The invisible is not unreal. It is simply unseen. And that unseen world, the world of your imagination, is the only reality. The outer world you call real is but its shadow, its echo, its afterglow. When you sit quietly and imagine a scene, yourself standing in the fulfillment of your desire, you are not playing with fantasies. You are dealing with spiritual fact. Your imagination is the divine creative power clothed in your human form. It does not ask permission to be real. It is real. It does not wait for the world to agree with it. The world will conform to it. This is where many stumble. They say, "But Neville, I imagined it and nothing happened." And I say to them, did you remain faithful to the state you entered, or did you abandon it for the evidence of the senses? The senses will contradict you. The outer world will mock you. It must, for it is the past made visible. What you see now is what you formerly imagined crystallized. So if you desire to change your world, you must not react to what your senses tell you now, but persist in the unseen imaginal act until it hardens into fact. Do not confuse imagination with daydreaming. Daydreams drift. Imagination creates. Daydreams are wishes tossed about by the wind of circumstance. Imagination is a deliberate inner act. I am not asking you to wish. I am asking you to assume, to enter into the state and dwell there, even when your outer world says it is impossible. For it is from that dwelling that reality takes its shape. You are told in Scripture, "Call the things which are not seen as though they were, and the unseen shall become seen." That is not poetry, it is law. You call them forth by occupying them in imagination. You do not petition reality to change. You assume the change is already accomplished and let reality catch up. The unseen is the cause, the seen is the effect. The unseen is now, the seen is delayed. Let me give you an example. A woman once came to me, distraught over her son, who had gone astray. He had abandoned his home, lost his way, and would not respond to her letters. She said, "Neville, I have prayed and prayed, and nothing happens." I said, "Stop praying to a distant God. See your son as you want him to be. Hear his voice speaking words of love. Feel his arms around you in reconciliation." She went home and did it. Night after night, she imagined his return. And one evening as she drifted into sleep, she felt his kiss on her cheek so vividly that she wept with joy. Within the week he returned. The outer world simply rearranged itself to reflect her inner vision. This is not sentiment, it is spiritual law. You are the operant power. Your imagination sets the course, and your outer world must follow. The only reason you doubt it is because you believe more in the evidence of your senses than in the reality of your imaginal acts. But I tell you, the unseen creates the seen, always, without exception. Think of the seed. You cannot see what is happening beneath the soil. You bury it, and to the senses it seems as though nothing is occurring. Yet life is stirring invisibly. So it is with your imaginal acts. You plant them in the garden of your mind,
And though nothing appears at first, they are germinating, taking root, preparing to emerge and form. The unseen precedes the seen. This is why you must walk by faith and not by sight. If you look to sight, you will uproot your seed each day to check if it is growing, and by doing so you kill it. But if you walk by faith, by inner knowing, you will leave it to grow, knowing it is already accomplished. And soon, it will break the surface and appear before you as though by magic. But it is not magic, it is law. I want you to see your imagination as the only substantial reality. The world outside is vapor. Your inner world is substance. The outer is shifting shadow. The inner is the solid rock. The outer world is dead until you animate it by your imaginal power. Without imagination, it is lifeless clay. With imagination, it becomes your chosen form. Now here is the great secret. The moment you imagine, you have already created. Creation is finished. You are not trying to make it happen. You are selecting from what already is in the eternal realm. And the proof will appear when you persist. Do not wait to see it to believe it to see it. Feel it as though it were now. Let your inner world be more real to you than the outer. Clothe yourself in the end and walk as though it were done. This is what the world calls living in the end. It is not pretending, it is inhabiting. Pretending says, I know this is not real, but I will play along. Inhabiting says, this is real, and the world has not yet caught up. One produces nothing, the other moves mountains. The world is moved not by effort, but by assumption. An assumption is simply sustained imagination. When you truly grasp this, you will stop struggling. You will stop pleading with life to give you what you want, and you will begin choosing it. The beggar becomes the creator. The slave becomes the son. For the Son of God is your imagination. That is the secret Christ, hidden in you. He creates by imagining, and you, being one with him, do the same. So tonight, whatever you desire, do not ask how it will happen. The how belongs to the world of effects. Remain in the world of cause. Assume the wish fulfilled. Feel the reality of it now. Let your senses be silent, and your imagination speak. And when you rise from your chair, rise as though you were already the man or woman you desire to be. That simple act will set unseen currents in motion, and all things will conspire to make it so. Hold fast to this truth. Your imagination is the substance of things hoped for. It is the reality behind the veil. It is not something you one day attain. It is what you already are. And when you embrace it, you will discover that the world bends, not to your effort, but to your assumption. That is the power that raised Christ from the dead. That is the power asleep in you. Awaken it, and you awaken to your true inheritance. Persist, my friends. Persist in your assumption. Persist when the world contradicts you. Persist when your senses scream, impossible. And you will see what I have seen. That imagination creates reality. And there is no power in this world greater than the imaginal act. It is the only reality. All else is shadow. All else is smoke. Only imagination endures, for it is the eternal. And when you know this, not as theory but as experience, you will walk the earth as a creator, no longer begging the world to change, but quietly changing it from within. And that, my beloved friends, is the victory of faith. The unseen made seen by the power of imagination.
I am the art of living from the end. My friends, if there is one principle I could carve into your heart tonight, it is this. Live from the end, not toward it, not in hope of it, but from it as though it were already so. The great error of man is that he looks at his desire as something far off, something to be attained in the future, and by doing so, he keeps it forever in the future. What you place in the future will never arrive, because you are always imagining it as not yet. Creation is finished. All states exist now. You are not creating something out of nothing. You are selecting from the infinite states already present in the eternal. This is the mystery Paul reveals when he says, He calleth those things which be not as though they were, and they become. You are not called to strive. You are called to assume. An assumption is simply the boldness to claim now what the senses deny. If you can dwell in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, if you can wear the end like a garment, the world must conform. It has no choice. For the world is dead until you animate it from within. I tell you, your present life is nothing more than the crystallized remains of what you have previously imagined. You are walking through the solidified past. That is why it is foolish to react to appearances. If you look at your world and say, "This is who I am," you are binding yourself to a corpse. The moment you declare a new state and inhabit it in imagination, you step out of the old and into the living. The old will crumble not because you forced it, but because you ceased feeding it with your attention. Attention is the only currency of creation. Withdraw it from what you do not want. Bestow it upon what you desire, as though it were already yours. That is the art of living from the end. Consider this. If you had already achieved your aim, how would you feel right now? Not tomorrow, not next year. Now, would you be relieved, joyful, grateful? Then feel that now. This is not pretending. This is occupying the state. Feel it so completely that you no longer look for it to come. When you stop looking for it, you have it. And when you have it within, it must appear without. It is law. Some of you wonder, but Neville, what about effort? What about action? And I tell you, action flows naturally from assumption. You do not force action. It is compelled. When you are truly living from the end, you will find yourself moved to do the very thing that brings it to pass. Yet it will not feel like striving. It will feel inevitable, as though you were carried along by a greater hand. The effort is in faith, not in labor. Faith is the effort to remain in the state when the senses deny it. All action that follows is effortless. Let me give you a story. A man once came to me longing to own his own business, yet he was buried in debt and working in a job he despised. He said, "Neville, I cannot see how it could happen." I said, "Do not see how, see from. Go to sleep tonight as though you already were the owner of that business. Walk through its halls in your imagination. Feel the desk beneath your hands. Hear your employees call you boss. Smell the wood of the office. Make it real within." He did. Night after night he lost himself in that scene. Soon he was dismissed from his job. Not a tragedy, but the beginning. In the very space that dismissal created, an opportunity arose to purchase a failing business for almost nothing. He took it, and in 2 years it prospered beyond expectation. The outer world simply conformed to the inner world he had chosen to live in. He did not create it. He selected it, and then lived from it. Understand this. Living from the end is not waiting. It is not hoping. Hope looks to the future. Faith knows it is now. The moment you feel it real, it is done. The outer world may take time to reflect it, but the reality has shifted the instant you assume. If you judge by appearances, you will uproot the seed. If you remain faithful to the unseen, it must appear. The end contains the means, and when you occupy the end, the means unfold automatically. You see, the world you experience is a mirror, and it can only reflect the state you are in. You cannot fight the reflection. If you frown into the mirror, it will not smile back. If you smile, it must smile. So too with states of consciousness. If you live in the state of lack, the world will mirror lack. If you live in the state of fulfillment, the world must mirror fulfillment. Therefore change your state, and the reflection must change. There is no other way. This is why effort fails, because it tries to change the reflection without changing the face that casts it. Do not say, "I will be," for you will always be becoming and never being. Say, "I am." That is the name of God. I am is the doorway to every state. The moment you say, "I am wealthy, I am loved, I am free," you summon that state. But saying it is not enough. You must feel it. You must enter it as though stepping through a door, and then close the door on all else. This is what scripture means when it says, when you pray, believe that you have received it, and you shall. Not believe that you will. Believe that you have. That is living from the end. When you live from the end, life becomes effortless. You stop striving to make things happen, and begin allowing them to happen. You stop struggling with the river, and let it carry you. You see the world as finished, and you simply choose where to stand within it. Every state already exists. You are not creating the state. You are stepping into it. And once you step into it, it must externalize. If tonight you can take just one desire, it live from its fulfillment, you will prove this to yourself. Choose something simple. Feel it real. Persist in that feeling, even when the world denies it. Each time the old world calls you back, gently return to your state. Say within yourself, "I am already what I desire to be." Make that your dwelling place. Soon the world will rearrange itself, and what once seemed impossible
will stand before you as natural and inevitable. It is not struggle, it is surrender. Not to the world, but to your assumption. You are surrendering to your chosen end. You are giving up the effort to make it, and resting in its reality. That rest is the Sabbath of God. And when you enter that rest, creation moves on your behalf. So tonight, practice living from the end. Close your eyes and enter the scene that implies your wish is fulfilled. Feel the satisfaction of it. Hear the voices that would congratulate you. Touch the things you would touch. Smell the air of that world. And when you open your eyes, carry that inner world with you. Walk as that man. Speak as that woman. Think from that state. And soon you will see what I have seen. That the end imagined is the end realized. Remember, the outer world is but the shadow of your inner state. Change your inner state, and the shadow must change. This is not hope. This is law. To live from the end is to live as though it were already done. And when you do, the world has no choice but to comply. For imagination creates reality. And the end you occupy within must become the world you walk through without. Live from the end, my friends. Dare to assume the feeling of your fulfilled desire now. And when you do, you will discover what the world calls miracles are nothing more than the natural fruits of sustained imagination. This is the secret of all success, the key to all transformation. Imagine the end and live from it.
10. The fulfillment of your desire. My friends, we have traveled far together tonight through the mystery of imagination, the power of feeling, the art of assuming the end, and the unshakable law of consciousness. And now we arrive at the final and most important step, the fulfillment of your desire. This is where the inner act manifests in the outer world, where the invisible becomes visible, and where the promise you have held within your imagination takes flesh. But understand this, the fulfillment is not something distant, not something to be chased or argued with. It is the inevitable result of the law when faithfully applied. You need only persist in the state you have chosen. Many of you have struggled for years, laboring, praying, hoping, and yet wondering why nothing seems to change. I tell you tonight that it is not because the law is unreliable. It is because your attention has wandered, because your consciousness has returned to old states of doubt, fear, and lack. Fulfillment comes not by striving in the outer world, but by remaining faithful to the inner world. Your imagination is God within you. When you persist in the feeling of your fulfilled desire, you are acting as God acts. And God is never defeated. The outer world will yield. It must. The first step in fulfillment is complete surrender to your inner assumption. I do not mean surrender to fate or circumstance. I mean surrender to your own imaginal act. You must stop struggling with the outer evidence, with the doubts of your mind, with the contradictions of your senses. The senses are but the echo of the past, the outer crystallization of previous thoughts and feelings. The present reality has nothing to do with your new state unless you allow it. Do not look to the outer world for proof. Instead, find your proof within the feeling of accomplishment, the inner assurance that it is done. That is faith. That is the law. That is fulfillment. Let me give you an example. There was a man who wished to be a writer, yet he had no audience, no recognition, and no evidence that his work would ever be published. He came to me in despair. I said, do not look at your empty pages. Enter your inner room and see yourself as already acclaimed, already published, already celebrated. Hear the applause. Feel the satisfaction. Let that state become your dwelling place. He did as I instructed night after night. Months passed, and then a publisher contacted him. Within a year, his book was in print and praised widely. It was not chance. It was the fulfillment of his imaginal act. He persisted in the state, and reality could not resist. Notice a key point. Fulfillment requires persistence. It is not a one-time act. You cannot imagine once and then allow doubt to creep in. The outer world will always tempt you to forget your inner assumption. Old habits, old beliefs, old fears, they will rise like waves against the shore of your consciousness. But if you hold firm, the tide must recede. Persistence in the inner state is the key to seeing it externalize. You do not labor to create it. You labor only to remain in the state, to be faithful to the end you have assumed. Another important element is gratitude. To feel the fulfillment inwardly is to feel gratitude for it, as if it were already yours. Gratitude is the secret language of the subconscious mind. When you feel it, you impress upon your inner being the certainty of your desire. You do not ask, you thank.
You do not beg. You accept. And acceptance, my friends, is the highest form of faith. It is the recognition that the end you have imagined already exists in the eternal, and that your imagination has simply chosen to reveal it. Many think of fulfillment as the arrival of a particular person, circumstance, or object. And yes, the world will reflect your desire through these channels. But fulfillment is first and foremost an inner state. It is the awareness of having and being. When you inhabit this state fully, you will find that the outer form is already moving into place. The world conspires to support that state. It may be gradual, it may be sudden, but it will come. The law is inexorable. The only question is your persistence and fidelity. Consider a woman who longed for. She had been told by doctors that recovery was uncertain, and the evidence of her body seemed to confirm their words. Yet she followed the law. Each night she imagined herself vibrant, strong, and energetic. She felt the life in her body, the vigor in her limbs, the lightness in her heart. She imagined herself walking in nature, breathing freely, experiencing joy. For months she persisted. The outer body resisted at first, yet slowly, inexorably her health returned. She did not battle her illness. She lived from the end. Her body conformed to her assumption. That is fulfillment. You see, friends, fulfillment is not the act of the outer world. It is the act of your inner state made absolute. When you persist in that state, the outer cannot help but obey. It is like the sun rising. You do not tell it to rise. You do not force it. It rises because the law of day is at work. Similarly, when you occupy the state of fulfilled desire, the law moves in perfect order, bringing the unseen into manifestation. Now there is one final aspect to consider: the joy of fulfillment. Many imagine fulfillment as a distant prize to be achieved, but true fulfillment is the lived experience of your desire inwardly. It is the serenity, the assurance, the quiet delight that arises when you no longer need to prove or struggle. It is the knowing that what you have chosen in imagination is as real as the sun, as real as your own heart. That joy is the proof. That joy is the manifestation. Everything else flows from it. I urge you then to close your eyes each night and dwell in the reality of your desire fulfilled. See it, feel it, live it. Carry that state through your waking hours. When doubts arise, do not argue with them. Return quietly to your inner world. Persist in the assumption that it is done, and the world outside must follow. Remember, the outer is never the master. It is always the servant. You are the master, and imagination is your tool. Use it wisely, use it faithfully, and the fulfillment you have longed for will appear. So tonight, my friends, let this be your final lesson. Assume the end, persist in feeling, dwell in the state, and know that it is done. Do not measure by appearances. Do not waver and hold fast to the unseen reality, and all else must yield. Your imagination is the only reality. Your inner state is the true world. Live from it, and you shall see wonders. Miracles, as men call them, are simply the natural outcome of your fidelity to the law of consciousness. Walk now in the knowledge that you are the creator. You are the operator of your destiny. You need not struggle. You need not fear. The end is yours. Assume it, feel it, live it, and watch as the world, like a faithful servant, bends to the imagination you hold within. That is the secret. That is the power. That is the fulfillment of every desire. And so, my friends, go forth as creators, knowing this: the kingdom is within you. The desire you hold is already accomplished in the unseen. Persist in your assumption, inhabit it fully, and the world must reflect your inner reality. That, I tell you, is the law. That, I tell you, is your inheritance. That, I tell you, is how your imagination becomes the only reality.